But that's not to say that anything else you can do what you want to do. Otherwise, I'm kind of like the chill time, a little bit of meditation time. I'm good with that. The first thing. Same thing every day. Oh yeah. Believe me, I know what that's all about. Oh, there she is. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Is this on? You guys hear me? All good? Loud and clear? Yes, thank you. How is everybody this evening? Welcome to Volunteers Shabbat. How many people in this room are volunteers? Yay. My name is Steve Lipton. I am, even though my name tag says I'm past president, I have Alan says can't hear me. Maybe I have to, this? Is that better? Now can you hear me? Do I have to start over? Well, all right. All right, well, I'm never that good at repeating. So my name is Steve Lipton. My name tag says past president, but not quite there yet. Still got a few days to go. A little sad because I have to give up the airplane, the helicopter, and most importantly, the parking spot. So my role here tonight is to do as Eliza has told me to do and share with you guys. A little bit kicking us off here tonight. I want to thank all of our volunteers in this room tonight, and I really want to start there. Without the people who are our volunteers at Temple Bethel, we could not survive, let alone thrive as the organization that we are. We are doing an absolute tremendous job, and the work that you guys do is what makes everything hum. So from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of the heart of the Board of Trustees, it feels like thank you isn't enough. I don't have cash. But we'll just leave it at a thank you for now and go from there. And now, am I supposed to step aside for the slideshow now, Eliza? Or what? Or duck? Just sit on the floor behind? Well, that was pretty darn cool. Thank you. Lisa, did you put that together?
With Sarah's help.
All right. Well, thank you. That was awesome. You know, think about what was on there. We not only had in-person meetings on there, how many pictures of Zoom meetings did we have on there, and folks that continued to get together in spite of the pandemic and the things that happened. It was absolutely phenomenal, and the number of people listed at the end who volunteered, just in absolute testimony to the welcoming nature of our congregation and the caring nature of our congregation. I do want to throw out a special thank you to a group of folks who have worked with us through this really fun thing we called a COVID pandemic. And that was our Staying Safe Task Force. And these folks have met weekly for almost 3 years now, 2.5 years, and have really taken a hard look at what are the things we need to do to be able to use our building to stay safe as a congregation, to come together as a congregation. And I just want to recognize these folks who gave a lot of their time on there. Barry Goodall, who is being recognized by sitting on a beach in Belize right now, but we'll forgive that. Julia Katz, Leslie Koff, Alan Schwartzstein, and Nancy Brower. And then, of course, our folks internally who participated, our internal staff who participated in this, Rabbi, Cantor, Nicole, and Kendra. So I thank all of you guys. Dan, did I say your name or did I miss you? I missed you, Dan. I'm sorry. He says no, don't recognize him? That's correct. Okay, Dan, you are, consider your recognition withdrawn. Okay. Well, thank you. All right. I also, there's some folks who are going to get some honors tonight, and we had some folks who spent an awful lot of time in our congregation this year. Our finance team, I do want to call them out, a little special recognition for those guys, and our communications team, who kept all of the information out and going in front of you. So I want to recognize those guys and the folks who worked on there for the outstanding work that they did. And I think I'll stop now, right? No, I'm done. I was waiting till you sat down. Our next speaker, the lovely Julia Katz. Welcome.
Shabbat Shalom. Can you hear me? Okay. For those who don't know me, I'm Julia Katz, and I serve on the temple board as well as several committees. And as a past recipient of this award, I'm pleased to be here tonight to introduce and celebrate this year's emerging leader, Samantha Gorelick. I want to share a brief story of when I first met Sammy because I think it's indicative of her personality and her gung-ho attitude. So Sammy and her family moved here just 1 year ago and immediately joined Temple. And shortly thereafter, they attended a young families event, Shabbat in the Park, with their then 4-year-old and their basically brand new baby. And I could just sense Sammy's great energy and was so excited that we were adding another family to our young families crew. But even if I hadn't been lucky enough to meet Sammy that night, I knew that we would have met because we have another connection. Her husband, Mike, and I actually went to high school together in Baltimore. So even though it's not Madison, it's still a small world. And it's been so fun to reconnect with Mike and to get to meet Sammy and their family. Anyway, back to the task at hand. As I mentioned, they became involved right away, but not just as participants. Sammy jumped in by joining the communications committee. As a copywriter, she brings a unique skill set and a keen eye for detail, as well as a creative side. She has provided great insights and contributions at communications meetings and on several of the communication pieces. She also stepped up to write profiles for some of our longtime members as part of the Member Milestones Project, including picking one up at the very last minute when we had additional people express interest in being featured after the project had already launched. She adds great contributions both from her professional perspective and as a new and active member of TBE. Sammy is always ready to lend her expertise wherever needed, and we're looking forward to her continued involvement and leadership. Sammy, we're lucky to have you and your family as part of our TBE community and grateful for all of your contributions thus far. We're excited about her passion and her enthusiasm, and she is truly a TBE rising star. It's my honor to present this year's Temple Bethel Emerging Leader Award to Samantha Gorelick.
Hi. Thank you so much, Julia, for the kind words and wonderful introduction. It's an honor to receive this award and to have been able to join this community. As Julia said, my husband and daughters and I, we moved in the summer in the middle of the pandemic. Actually, we were in Chicago prior, and we moved, had a new baby, came here. Mike started a new job, so it was a lot of big change for us. And we left behind a really tight-knit Jewish community in Chicago, sort of not knowing what Madison would be like. And instantly, as Julia mentioned, we started to attend some events, and we were blown away by how welcoming everyone was, attending Shabbat services in the park and getting to know other young families. And I just, really fell in love with the community. And having been here a short time, I still feel like it's been wonderful just to see how close everyone is, how warm everyone is, the ways that this synagogue has navigated a tremendous challenge with the pandemic. I wasn't expecting to be able to be so involved, but there are always ways, even through our communications committee, we're able to meet on Zoom and still get to know each other pretty well. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward, as Julia mentioned too, working on the Milestones project was really exciting. As someone who's completely new to this community, I really loved getting to read about so many lifelong members and hearing their stories, and not having the context of having met most of them. It was actually pretty wonderful to see how long people are involved with Temple Bethel, and it made me very excited about sort of beginning that chapter, and I really aspire to be like so many of the people that I was able to read and write about. So thank you again. I'm looking forward to continuing to become more involved, and looking forward to meeting more of you. Thanks so much.
It's really fun to introduce somebody that you respect and like as much as I respect and like Carol Cantor. Ever since she moved here and joined Temple Bethel, she has been a dynamo in terms of volunteering and in terms of activities within the temple of various kinds. What sort of a person is she? Well, she's energetic, she's curious, she's generous. She knows about as much about folk dancing as an ethnographer. She's an expert at beading, knitting, all sorts of fabric art. She reads all sorts of things, but she has a special weakness for historical fiction. She subscribes to the Jewish Review of Books. And she attends Torah study regularly, contributing with Robert Alter and the Sansino edition as her points of reference. But that's not all. She volunteers. She keeps, I know this from an inside source, she keeps a detailed running analysis of sisterhood membership. She can tell you at any moment, day or night, what the membership status is. She has inspired and helped shape programs that allow us to treasure personal and family history, such as a project with the Wisconsin Historical Society. She's also participated with the Members Milestones Project. I know her work best from her leadership of the Congregational Educational Committee. There, she rounds up participants, finds the meeting times, solicits suggestions and new ideas for programs and classes, summarizes progress, and concludes on time. She guides and supervises the Swarzensky weekend, often recruiting speakers, communicating with them, making detailed arrangements, and formally introducing them to the congregation. When I accepted the honor of introducing her, I was riding in our car. Sitting next to me was a woman who will remain unnamed, but is very close to me. And I said, I'm going to introduce Carol Cantor for the Volunteer Award. And she said, quote, "For a little girl, she packs a big wallop." And I thought to myself, yep, that's exactly true. So, so congregants, well-deserved Volunteer of the Year award, Carol Cantor. There we go. All right, you get to keep this.
I get to keep it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my mask off. In 2014, my husband Paul and I moved here to Madison. We came to join our sons Michael and David and their families. When you move in your 70s, you bring your household goods, your books, your collections, your music, your 2 automobiles, but you don't bring your community with you. Here at Temple Bethel, we have been finding our community. I started off by volunteering to waitress at Foodorama. And then I had the great privilege of participating in the 50th anniversary of Foodorama the next year. I got to interview about a dozen of the women who had played a major role during the course of those 50 years of this wonderful event. And I see some of them sitting right out there. I began to develop a group of friends through the mighty sisterhood of Temple Bethel. The next thing I did was I took on the challenge, with the guidance of Nicole Jar and Rabbi Beich, of forming a congregational education committee. We called it Adult Education. We vet ideas about courses and programs. We've got a great committee. I want to thank Steve Olson, Pam Olson, Joanna Burke, Lillian Abrams, Jane Armstrong, Charles Cohen, Felice Guilford, and David Kopstein, members of our committee. Right now, we're working on 2 important activities. The 2022 Swarsensky Memorial Weekend, where we will be honoring Madison's women rabbis. We expect 6 or more of them to be participating over the course of that weekend. And this, of course, comes as the Reform movement celebrates 50 years of women in the rabbinate. We are also planning to recognize the people who come on Saturday mornings. Used to be in person, now it's on Zoom, soon will be hybrid, both in person and Zoom, to study Torah with us. This year, according to Larry Cohn, marks 40 years, a biblical milestone of Torah study continuously at Temple Bethel. And with Rabbi Beich and Cantor, we are planning a recognition of those stalwart Torah study participants that will lead right into the Simchat Torah event. The older I get, the more I look for wisdom. Where is it? Confucius had a lot to say about it. But I really like what the American philosopher Eric Hoffer had to say. He talked about a learned people, and indeed we Jews are a learned people. But he said that learned people are equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. Instead, it is those who are the learners who can inherit the future. And I hope that we will all, and especially the Congregational Education Committee and every program we bring to the congregation, help us all to become better learners. Thank you.
That was a great idea, Carol. It's not a good idea? Okay. Well, tell me if you can hear me or not hear me. Okay. My name is Amy Fields, and I have the honor of introducing Dale Cunin. I remember the first time I met Dale. It was at a committee meeting in the mid to late 80s. I disagreed with everything she said. At the next meeting, I listened to what she said. Here's what I learned. Dale is a process thinker. She is practical, thoughtful, and never traffics in platitudes. Dale Cunin has brought her devotion and systematic thinking to Temple Bethel on countless committees, task forces, treasury, and executive leadership. As a CPA, she has donated hundreds, probably thousands, of hours of essential accounting expertise. And while we celebrate Dale's decades of dedication, we need to thank Dale for lending her supportive family over the years. We thank the extraordinary Les Goldsmith, their kids, and the memory of Dale's parents who were active members when they relocated to Madison. Dale, while I know you volunteer from the heart and maybe are even a little uncomfortable with recognition, you absolutely earned and deserve this lifetime achievement recognition. Mazel tov, toda rabah from a grateful congregation. Isn't that pretty?
Here's the box. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I am a little uncomfortable, and I don't want to take too much time, but I do want to tell you that I appreciate the award, and I've been thinking a lot about Temple, and I feel really old because I am old, but I feel especially old because when I think about my time in Temple and all of the involvement and activities that I've done, the people that are no longer here are the ones that got me involved. Sandy Dutch was the first person to reach out to me when I was a very young mother and wife, and she just she said, "I don't know where you live, but I'm coming to get you," and she did, and we lived on the Far East Side at the time, and all the people that were when I first served on the board, it was with. Gary Friedman was the president at the time, and he was, I asked him, "Why did you ask me to be on the board?" He said, "Well, we were looking through the Temple directory and saw your name, and we wanted to ask you." So, and he was very, very much of a mentor in terms of being involved in the Temple, and we shared the financial interest. And when I became treasurer the first time, many years ago, I can't even remember when that was, I took over that position from Amy, and I did it with my dear friend, Fran Weiner, and it was a labor of love, and it was something that we could do together. And we always said it took two of us to replace Amy. So she set the bar for that. And when my parents moved to Madison, they found a community here too, and they were very involved. And I appreciated how much that they connected and that the people here connected with them. And Betsy, during her presidency, we spent a lot of time together, and it was great to get to know her. And so Amy and Betsy are the people that are still here that that were involved in my beginnings. But a lot of those people are no longer with us, and I think about Is Fine, who was an institution, and he was the one who, when we joined Temple, he was the one who we joined with. I mean, you had to talk to him, and he vetted you and whatever, and he stayed on and on and on and on. And a lot of the work that I've been doing in the last few years is really his legacy that that nobody really could pick up and take on. He had those non-operating funds in his head all the time, and as many of you may know, he stayed on the board until he passed away. And he was, when I came back on the board for a little while, he was there, greeted me. He was like, "Where you been?" And I appreciated that. I enjoyed working with him. So I have been at Temple, we figure out how many years, a lot of years. But Rabbi Swarzynski was still here when we joined, and so we've seen all the rabbis, and then we were involved when we hired the Cantor for Debbie, who became a dear and close family friend who we still enjoy time with and celebrate holidays with. And so all of the involvement that I've had has been enriched my life and made my community, our community, more meaningful. And I do thank my husband, who, between the two of us, we certainly put in a lot of time for Temple, but he's very patient about what I do, and I've been sort of patient about what he does. Some Friday nights are a little bit controversial, I would say. But thank you very much, and I will continue to be involved with Temple and this community that I appreciate so much.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. If you don't know me, my name is Leslie Koff. I want to start out tonight by acknowledging not only the amazing volunteers who've given so much of themselves, but of all of those who partner with the honorees. I don't just mean how Dale said that sometimes, less is less patient with how much she volunteers or vice versa. It's not just that. But I want to acknowledge all of our partners who are patient with us when we do a lot of stuff and we can't spend time with them, and also with the partners who partner with us in our Temple Bethel roles. For example, standing here today, I'd like to honor my partners on the Staying Safe in Changing Times Task Force. Dan, who does not want to be mentioned, the staff members who are always there and always keeping us on task, which we appreciate. And Alan, thank you so much. And Julia, thank you for partnering with me on that. I would like to honor my partner on the Board of Trustees. Steve, give us a wave. Yay, that's Steve, almost past president. My partners on Cafe Panim. I would like to acknowledge David Gunderson, Elena Goldstone, and my partner in other things, Russell Koff. All of my partners on Cafe Panim, which every Sunday morning, except for some times during the pandemic, but going back 8 years, that we provide coffee and bagels and community on Sunday mornings. I want to tell you that volunteering at Temple Bethel is and has been an opportunity for me to share joy and be inspired by all of you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for inspiring me. People volunteer, we volunteer, I volunteer by stepping outside ourselves into the community. It takes bravery, a little bit of courage to step outside yourself and make a community your own community, like Carol said. She came and there was no community that they came and brought with them, but this became her special place. Thank you all for being courageous enough to step outside yourselves in this way and for continuing to do so to keep our community so very vibrant, and it is vibrant. Stepping into my new service role as your president in a few weeks, I look forward to the future of continued community involvement. As I have said before, it takes many people doing very small things again and again and again, and then medium things to add up to the big and beautiful community that we are. And standing here today, Hine Matova Manayim, you guys are gorgeous. It is gorgeous to be all together. And now, because we have new carpeting, it is a glassless toast. So I'm not going to ask you to raise a glass because that looks weird, okay? I'm going to say, let's raise our hearts. I raise my heart to all of you. Thank you so much for all you do and all who you are. We all benefit and we are all inspired. Shabbat Shalom. Now, just a word. For the next few minutes, the rabbi and the cantor will begin prepping for services. You can feel free to take a bio break. Services begin at 7:30 sharp because we also are watching the people who are watching us on the screen. Shabbat Shalom.
Sometimes need to double check the guitar.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. What a pleasure, what a beautiful evening we are having. This is an evening of community, and it's so nice to have people here with one another, honoring our volunteers, and then being present with one another for Shabbat worship. Speaking of being present for one another, I want to welcome you here to our sanctuary, welcome our online community as well. For our online community, there is a link to the prayer book, and when you click on that link, be sure to follow the pages at the bottom of the page image, the one that is in brackets. Those are the page numbers I'll be calling out. There is also a link to tonight's program, and there are some supplemental readings tonight, so I hope you can find that link and you can click on the program and follow along. And there's a community here that is with you as well. For those of us here in the sanctuary at Bethel, I hope you have a prayer book, and I hope that you have a program also like this to follow along on a few of the pieces that we are offering tonight. But on this night, we just invite one another to be with one another. Raise your voices loud. Raise your voices in joy and in gratitude and in friendship. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. It's really a special privilege to worship tonight with so many members here tonight, and so many, maybe a few prospective members are here tonight, but especially our members who are volunteers in our community tonight. Special people who donate their time as well as their substance. But donors and leaders and organizers and people who help us celebrate life cycle and celebrate Chagim, holidays, it's so wonderful to be in a community of people who are knowledgeable and who are active. Hillel said in Pirkei Avot that never one should separate themselves from the community. And the rabbis in the Talmud go a step further and say, yes, that is especially important in bad times, but in good times too, that people should be connected to the community. One should feel that they are part of the community, good times or bad times. And frankly, they even say if one agrees or disagrees with the path of the community, they say that you should always remain connected. And of course, they always add the expectation that the community is going to act in righteous ways. So even if one disagrees, one knows that one's actions and the community that speaks for them will act in righteous ways. These connections show a vibrant and a resounding community here tonight. And so we continue now with welcoming the Shabbat. Cantor?
Those of you who have been worshiping here, praying with us recently, have probably noticed that I've been using a tune with some frequency since the war broke out in Ukraine. On page 128 at the bottom, there is a poem and a melody that has such an intimate connection and a historical connection with that region. And for me, and I hope for some of us here too, it helps remind me that just as we're praying for moments of peace and rest for ourselves, we also pray for moments of peace and rest to this Shabbat for those in that region, as well as in all those places where those moments are very hard to find. Shabbat HaMalkah. Hachama merosh ha'ilanot nistalka bo'u v'netze likrat Shabbat HaMalkah hinei yoredet HaKedosha HaBerucha ve'ima malachim tzva shalom umlucha. Boi, boi, HaMalkah. Boi, boi, HaKala. Shalom aleichem malachei HaShalom. The sun on the treetops no longer is seen. Come gather to welcome the Sabbath, our Queen. Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, and with her the angels of peace and of rest. Draw near, and here abide. Draw near, O Sabbath bride. Peace also to you, you angels of peace.
There's one thing about leadership and volunteerism that is so crucial, and that is the fact that the light that they give us, that our leaders provide, can show us the way. We rely on that same kind of light as we welcome the Shabbat. We thank God for that light that emanates from the candles, from the hearts and the eyes of the people who are with us. I'd like to invite Steve Lipton, our current president, and Leslie Koff, our president-elect, to the Bima tonight as they offer a meditation prior to the lighting of Shabbat candles. The candle lighting blessing that we'll all offer in a few moments is on page 120 in our prayer book.
Loving God, with a full heart we thank you for the blessing of the week which has passed and for the strength which you granted us to overcome our difficulties. We ask your blessings for the week that lies ahead.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'adlik ner, le'adlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We welcome the Shabbat with songs of Kabbalat Shabbat, of receiving the Shabbat into our hearts, into our community. We begin on page 130 with L'chu Niranana.
L'chu Niranana, lai, 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 Adonai, lai, 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 Iyar, lai, 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 Tzur Isheinu, ai, lai, 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 Nikad ma'afanav, b'toda, b'toda, Mizmirot nariyalo, nariyalo. L'chu niranena, lai, 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 Adonai, lai, 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 Nariyah, lai, 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 Tzur Isheinu, lai, 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 lai.
On page 138, Lecha Dodi. Tonight, verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. On the final verse, we rise and will face the door, symbolically inviting Shabbat to join us.
Echadodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Echadodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Amor v'zachor, b'dibur echad, Anu El HaMeyuchad, Adonai Echad, U'Shemo Echad, V'Shem U'Tiferet, Ve'Tila Lecha Dodi, Ve'ikrat Chala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabla Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela.
Verse 2.
Likrat Shabbat, L'chu v'nelha, Yihi Mekor HaBeracha, Berosh Mikedem, Nesucha, Sof Ma'aseh, B'machshava techila, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela.
Verse 5.
Hitoreri, Hitoreri, Kiva Orech, Kumi Ori, Uri Uri, Shir Daveri, Kevod Adonai, Alaich Nigla, Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה פני שבת קבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת קבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה פני שבת נקבלה.
Page 140, Tov Lehodot.
Psalm of gratitude for Shabbat. Mizmor shir leyom ha-Shabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Uzamer l'shimcha elyon. 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 Lehagid baboker. בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות בלילות טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון עלי עשור עלי נבל עלי היגיון בכינור בכינור טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון.
The evening service, which in Hebrew is called Ma'ariv, is sometimes named after the first blessing that we say. We praise God for being Hama'ariv Aravim, the one who mixes together the light and darkness. But also mixing together could be something that synagogue volunteers and leaders do because they come here and they bring people together. They form a synthesis, and out of that synthesis comes great ideas, great programming. And so our opportunity to praise God in the harmonizing of the elements of the world and the light and the darkness that is part of our nature and part of the world's environment is similar to what we do in community. We mix people together and we come up with beauty and with joy. Baruch Hu, leading into Ma'ariv, beginning Ma'ariv, begins on page 146. We invite the community to rise.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed.
On page 148, at the middle of the page, we read together. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening.
El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch Ata Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravi.
Amen. At the top of page 150, Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu, ufkumeinu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Yevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. We continue at the top of page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'beitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha, u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, Uchtabtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem
Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. At the top of 157, we continue together, just as the Israelites continued together through the deserts from their traveling from slavery to freedom. Please join me. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. 158.
Ya bye bye bim bim bye, ya bye bye bim bye, ya bye bye bim bim bye, ya bye bye bim bye. Ay 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 ay, ya bye bye bim bye. Ay 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 ay, ya bye bye bim bye. Ni chamocha ba'elim Adonai, ni kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, Torah tehilo dosen pele, Torah tehilo dosen pele. Alechotecha ra'u vanecha, Borkei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam, Zeli Elianu ve'amru, Adonai lo me'olam va'ed. Ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam. Ay 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 ay, ya bye bye bim bam. Ay 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 ay, ya bye bye bim bam. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Amen. On page 160, we continue with Hashkivenu, this prayer, this plea for divine protection from the dangers of the world and for life renewed tomorrow.
Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, Ve'ha'amitenu shomreinu l'chaim, ufroz aleinu sukat shelomecha, v'taknenu be'etzah tova milefanecha, v'hoshienu leman shemecha, v'hoshienu leman shemecha.
Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore.
Ushmor tzeiteinu, uvoheinu, lechaim uleshalom, me'ata Haporei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Back in the 13th century, Yehuda Halevi wrote these words that are actually part of the Tefillah in a different page, in a few pages from here. He writes, "Where might I go to find you, God? Your place is exalted but hidden. Yet where would I not find you? Because your glory fills the universe. I have sought to draw near to you. My heart cries out to you. And the moment I reach out for you, I find you reaching toward me." Now, not all of us have the same, perhaps, God orientation as Yehuda Halevi. But this mutuality in acceptance, this mutuality in worship can be found in this community of worshipers. And it is a privilege to be worshiping with one another here. As we reach out to one another with our hearts, we find that everyone else is reaching back toward us. And what a beautiful thing that is in this community. We continue with the Tefillah on page 164. We invite the community to rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi agite ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
166.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Ha'akol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo ve'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah.
168.
Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav ve'Hoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit u'mechayeh, U'matzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol, Baruch ata Adonai, Mechayeh hakol.
Amen. Page 170.
Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. We continue on page 173. We offer, at the middle of the page, we offer this prayer responsively. Disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency, make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shakas Adonai,
Deny to us the false Shabbat,
which gives us the delusions of
satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred.
Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears.
Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality.
Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh
HaShabbat.
Blessed are you, O God, who sanctifies this day. We continue now with silent worship through page 180, and we will meet you there when everyone is done approximately.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer, my rock and my redeemer. Ratzon imrei fi vehegion libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri vegoani Shalom, Nimromav, Uyase Shalom, Aleinu, De'al kol Israel, De'al kol Yochvei Tevel, Oseh Shalom, Nimromav, Uyaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al kol ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו, אמן. ואמרו, אמן.
The Kiddush for this Erev Shabbat continues on page 123 in the prayer book. Please join Cantor and Amy as we thank God for the blessings of this day.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chai.
We wanted to offer just a few special words about the volunteers in our community. So many people sitting in this sanctuary have indeed done just that for our community. And those who aren't yet volunteers, I'm sure, will be volunteers in the future. But everyone here is so special to us. In the supplement tonight, there are some blessings, which I'd like us all to say aloud to one another, not just in our direction. But when you look around and you see the people sitting near you, these are people who make this community go. And so I'd like to invite you with me, with Cantor and Amy, to perhaps to offer these words and these blessings to those people sitting around us, because you all deserve it so. Please, it's on page 3 of our supplement tonight. These are the blessings for our Temple Beth El volunteers. Please join me. Like Sarah, may your experiences be filled with joy and laughter, even throughout long years of service. Like Rebecca, may you be willing to help others as you continue your journey through the lives of members of our community. Like Rachel, may you be loved by all who meet you, especially when they learn that you are working for the benefit of the community. Like Leah, may you be blessed by the love of the family who will always cherish you and your contributions to the community. Like Abraham, may you have the courage to embark on new and exciting programs and journeys in your communal involvement. Like Isaac, may you embrace the community with love and your special brand of caring. Like Jacob, may you continue to wrestle with the challenges of life, and may you ultimately triumph in blessing.
And continuing in the supplement, you can either just listen for a moment, or if you know it and you want to sing along, you're welcome to, but we'll bless one another even further. Ruach Elohim, may God's Spirit be with you. Ruach Elohim, keep you safe from harm. May the love of God be your shelter from every storm. יברכך אדוני וישמרך יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך יישא אדוני פניו אליך ויעשה לך שלום. Ruach Elohim, may God's Spirit be with you, bring you to the light and loving arms. Together we will be a shelter from every storm. Together we will be a shelter from every storm. יברכך אדוני וישמרך יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך יישא אדוני פניו אליך ויעצם לך שלום.
In parts of our world that are whole, there are still those who are ill. And in parts of our world that are broken, we know that there is a great amount of brokenness. And so we offer prayers of healing to those people who are ill, or those people who need healing of body and soul and spirit. We pray for wholeness to come to the world, which sometimes is extremely broken and in need of our special brand of caring. On page 371 is Misha Beirach, and we offer this prayer for those whom we think of and those whom we may not know, people who need special prayers of healing. If there are people whom you are thinking of, either in this community present in Bethel, or if you are watching online and you know of someone too, please offer their name, either aloud here or in the video comment section online. We want to know whom you are thinking about. And here in our community, if you know of someone, we invite you to add your loved one's name to those already on our Bethel healing list.
Jack Murphy. Jack and Maureen. Will Zangwill. Cindy Bergman. Wanda again. Mark Kaufman. Annette Wallace. Jake Sullivan.
Rabbi Ann Fold. Zelma Fine. Mark Frankel. Karen Pushko.
For them and for those we may not know of, we offer this prayer of healing. 371.
Misheperach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheperach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
And another very important blessing that we offer communally is the counting of the Omer, we'd like to invite you to turn to page 570 in our prayer book. It is this period between Passover and Shavuot, this period of expectation for our ancestors as they neared Mount Sinai. And for us, it is also a time of our nearing close to Shavuot, a day of learning. What new things will we learn? What new things will happen to us? We offer these blessings for this 35th day of the Omer.
הנני מוכן ומזומן, לקיים מצוות תעשה, של ספירת העומר, של ספירת העומר, של ספירת העומר, של ספירת העומר.
Behold, we are ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting of the Omer.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu, b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, al sfirat haomer, al sfirat haomer, al sfirat haomer, al sfirat haomer.
Our praise to you, Adonai, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer. Hayom chamisha ushloshim yom, shehem chamisha shavuot la'omer. Today is 35 days, which is 5 weeks of the counting of the Omer. Shabbat Shalom. So many things we need to do in community, so many important things that bind us together as a community, and we thank you for helping us measure Jewish time in such important ways. I want to share something with you tonight. I want to share with you a letter that I would like to send my white neighbors this week. Dear neighbor, if you are afraid that I might replace you, please don't be. First, I could never replace you. Second, and more to the point, I do not intend to change you or our American way of life, something that many seem to fear. I do hope to achieve the dream of all Americans, to expand the liberties of which our nation's founders dreamed and spoke and wrote. Or this one, dear neighbor, if you are unhappy that I might replace you, I guarantee that each one of us on this planet are here to help one another and improve everyone's lives. I believe that social advancement need not be a zero-sum game. For given the right circumstances, that is, equal access to education, nutrition, health care, and all other things that speak of human rights and dignity, everyone can rise to their own comfortable levels of success. I have one more to share with you. Dear neighbor, if you are angry that I might replace you, I can't help that. But for your sake and for the sake of the nation, please try to rise above your emotions. You may yearn for an America that once was, but we both know that our nation needs to move toward what our nation must be. America has been changing and progressing every day since its independence. and I hope that one day you can join in the celebration. Signed, your Jewish neighbor. Now, my friends, these letters are fantasies, they're illusions, but they're dreams I have, dreams that I have that people could be moved by rational, or dare I say, emotional argument to acknowledge the need to move on from our nation's racist and anti-Semitic tendencies. Now, do you think these letters would be well received? Do you think that anyone would get it? Or is this fantasy of the great replacement so attractive and so widespread among white people in our nation that we are simply facing more decades of violence stemming from hatred? As you would likely understand, my fantasies tonight respond to the most recent racist murders in a Buffalo, New York supermarket last week and the white supremacist ideology behind it. This hater is, like many, the tip of the iceberg of hate. There's far more danger out there than we can see. But we Jews must be involved. We must respond. We need to be present for our people and for all peoples and groups who are subject to hatred and violence based simply upon who they are. I really appreciate what Representative Liz Cheney offered the other day, that hatred is followed by hateful action. She decried politicians who have, quote, enabled white nationalism, white supremacy, and anti-Semitism. She said, history has taught us that what begins with words ends in far worse. And she called upon her congressional leaders and colleagues to renounce and reject those views and to shun people who express them. Now, it may seem at first hopeless for us to challenge this concept of a so-called great replacement. That is, the idea that some international cabal or conspiracy of shady elites wants to replace white people with people of color, perhaps, through immigration and the higher birth rates of minority populations. Well, this may already be too pervasive among our citizens today. And many people have accepted this idea. To paraphrase Yoda, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to violence. But as so many conspiracy phantoms, this is a false and fictitious narrative, like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, published generations ago. As individuals and as a nation, we must actively confront this pretense for bigotry and racist violence, remove it from any legitimacy, expose it for the prejudice it promotes and the violence it births, and remove from their positions so-called political and media leaders who support and employ this so-called theory. And one other point I want to share with you tonight, and that's a point about nomenclature. Now, some call this notion replacement theory, but I implore us not to use that label, because the word theory provides a certain legitimacy that is dangerous and wrong. The label of theory suggests that this notion can legitimately compete in the marketplace of ideas with other defensible ideas, and that is rubbish, plain and simple. There is no legitimacy in this notion of replacement. No one is out to replace anyone except the haters who wish to rid our nation of ethnic, racial, religious, or gender minorities. Sentiments such as those of Representative Cheney need to be amplified across our nation, from Capitol Hill in Washington to every state house, and from there to every municipal building. Wouldn't it be great, for example, in this state whose motto is forward, to see the governor standing alongside the Chief Justice of our Supreme Court, alongside the two speakers of our legislative bodies, these four people representing the tripartite governing powers here. Wouldn't it be great to see them standing together, decrying hatred, bigotry, and prejudice? That's a dream, right? That's a fantasy, given the polarized nature of our partisan-driven state government. But if people are serious about overcoming hate, my friends, I think that's what's needed. We need to courageously say the words to show where we stand and then determinedly perform the actions that give credence to our expressions. I'm sorry if I'm making some people uncomfortable, but I think it's very important that we talk about this. I recognize that everyone is not going to be convinced. Certain haters will always be there lurking in the shadows of the internet and spreading their poison. Their so-called courage consists of incoherent writings and acts of violence that destroy lives. There are other haters, of course, those who take to more mainline and perhaps even respectable venues to advocate racial and religious hatred. Sadly, their stature and their medium of choice lend them a sense of legitimacy and influence. Yet we also need to expose the bigotry that they espouse. Now, the New York Times recently published an analysis of Tucker Carlson's recent rise in popularity, but he too has begun to groom his audience toward hate by using the language of hate. Like Father Coughlin, Joseph McCarthy, and other demagogues before him who abused their professions for prejudicial purposes, I think that Carlson arouses intolerance in his audience. I fear he prepares his audience for a race war to come. As an illustration, in September 2018, he complained against those who support diversity in national life. He asked, "How precisely is diversity our strength? Since you've made this our new national motto, please be as specific as you explain it." Well, I think that Mr. Carlson asks the wrong question. A better question is, how can we turn our nation's diversity into our nation's strength, especially after centuries of single skin-toned rule? Wouldn't this be a better way of addressing how our nation needs to progress? My friends, the racial invective and violence need to stop before we devolve into an irreversible cycle of brutality and hatred. This week's Torah portion of Bechukotai suggests that we can actually sow seeds, we can sow seeds of either virtue or vitriol, and we will reap what we sow. In this final portion of the book of Leviticus, God reminds Israel of the gifts that God will give to those who follow God's laws: ample rain to yield an abundant harvest, personal and national security, a population that will increase and fill the land comfortably, and the eternal presence of a God who loves and watches over them. And then God offers, in contrast, curses. That is what's going to happen when a nation rejects the divine commandments. In that scenario, in long curses in this parashah, enemies rout the Israelites from their secure existence. A parched and gray landscape brings forth no bounty. Illness and plague afflict the people, and God turns away. Now, this is a very violent and depressing portion to read, especially if we believe in the powers of a deity who affects reward and punishment based upon a person's or a nation's behavior. But we don't view God in the same way as our biblical ancestors. We know that we have agency, and we understand that we bear responsibility for our actions, and therefore we need to be prepared to receive the consequences of our behavior. When viewed through this lens, we see that the offenses we commit will yield their own reward or punishment, their punishment actually. God won't need to impose chastisement because the natural consequence of our wrongdoings will be evident. Walls of separation between us will continue to proliferate. Violence and division will increase, and our nation will lose the desire to search for unity among our diverse population. So let us know that positive acts in which we engage will bring reward as well, because our intentions of goodness will guide our behavior, the language of love will conquer our hateful invective, and good deeds that we perform will yield their benefit in a harvest of improved heart and health. So let us struggle against the forces that would imperil us. And certainly in this community, let us promote the values inherent in Jewish tradition, which are simply to see each person as someone made in the image of God, someone with divine qualities, dignity, and worth. And let us understand and act on the responsibility given to us in the book of Genesis, which is to serve as loyal stewards of this planet, whose fate, therefore, is in our hands alone. And let us agree upon and defend the values of this land of liberty in which we are fortunate to live, the the values of not championing a nation state or a clan affiliation, and not of racial purity or color of the skin or sexual or gender presuppositions, but rather those of unity through common beliefs and shared goals, freedom of thought, freedom of religion, the dignity of the person, and yes, the pursuit of happiness. The love of humanity, the defense of democracy, and the search for equality can propel our nation forward. Yes, you know, in the future, we will have a panoply of colors, an intermixing of religion, an acceptance of gender and sexual orientation differences, and more. Let us therefore strive to embrace this diversity as a strength that will allow us to see many sides of that one other person. At the conclusion of all those blessings and curses that we find in this week's Torah portion, God promises to be true to the covenant established with Israel's ancestors, and that God will never spurn or forget Israel. May we in our day, indeed, be worthy of that blessing. Shabbat Shalom. Our service continues on page 186 in the prayer book. We invite everyone to rise. Page 186, we continue with Aleinu. 586, thank you. Page 586. 186 won't get you to the right place. Page 586, Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon ha'kol, l'ateit gedula le'otzer breshit, shehu noteh shamayim ve'yosed aretz, u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mimahal, u'shchinat uzo begovhei meromim, hu Eloheinu ein od, va'anachnu kor'im u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu. Please be seated. We continue on page 589. We read together. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. On 591.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Ushemo echad.
Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may the memory of the righteous always be a blessing. On this evening, we remember loved ones who died recently, those connected to members of our community, and we remember those whose yahrzeit occur at this time. And if one of your loved ones' names whom you're remembering is not on our Kaddish list, we'll invite you to add that later as well. These are those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. The recent losses connected to members of our community. We mourn the passing of Lael Lubing, cousin of Eliza Hoffert, Yolanda McDermott, stepmother of Kim Stefanovich, grandmother of Tristan and Skylar, Barbara Scharfman, grandmother of Dr. Stephanie Kirkland, great-grandmother of Elena and Zoe, and Jonathan Poole, brother-in-law of Linda White, uncle of Natalie, Erica, and Holly White. And if you are here tonight, by the way, in mourning, if you would like, we invite you to rise as the name of your loved one is recited, and then you'll be joined by the whole community as together we recite the Mourners Kaddish. And these are the Yartzeiten that we remember at this time. In continuing love, we remember Bernard Albert, David Ashkenazi, Rochelle Brodsky, Edith Cohen, Jacob Engel, Edith Firstman, Earl Richard Friedman, David Gerhardt, Marshall Goldman, Barry Greenberg, Edna Heilprin, Edith Danae Lax, Rose Lefkowitz, Marion C. Lowe, Avram Lubing, John J. Lynch, Bob Mashelow, Morton Melnick, Harlan Obeler, M. Paul Orenberg, Alex Persian, Melvin L. Potash, Faye Rosen Robiner, Saul Schultz, Gladys Silman, Donald Sinico, David Wax, and Harriet Weintraub, all of blessed memory. There may be others in this community of consolation who are remembering loved ones, and if you would like to add your loved one's name to this list, we invite you to do that now.
Ann Cantor and Fred Cantor. Eric Solitsky.
Other people we should be remembering tonight? Testifying to the faith then that binds the generations of our peoples together, we now invite everyone to turn to page 598 and we rise and join one another in the Mourners Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol bir chata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May God send peace to all who mourn and comfort those who remember on this night and always. And we say amen. Amen. Please be seated. Our service is about to conclude, and when it does, we have the privilege of sharing two different kinds of Oneg Shabbats for those of us who are here. Ongei Shabbat, actually, to be specific, I think. For those who are here in our sanctuary, at home or online, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Oneg at your home, at your place. Here we have an Oneg to go, which are large cookies from Just Bakery, our partner in helping people become reacquainted to the working life after having been imprisoned for some time. Or we have an Oneg Shabbat, I think, which will be in the community court. You can go to one or the other. Some people do both, I guess. So it depends upon what kind of a sweet tooth you have. I would like to thank tonight Dan Esser and Linda Rivitz and Dale Kaufman and Mona Statz, who are our greeters tonight, greeting people at the door. We do appreciate everyone wearing a mask, both over nose and mouth. It's very important that we try to maintain things with the virus, with COVID. And this week, in fact, our Staying Safer in Changing Times task force really recommends that people wear masks at all time in the building. I know that we relented a little bit over the past weeks before, but because of the uptick in COVID cases, we are asking people to wear masks at all time, except obviously when you're eating. You can't eat with a mask at the same time. But be very careful, and we appreciate people trying to maintain the right distance between one another. Thank you to the Temple Beth El Sisterhood for helping to sponsoring these beautiful 2 Ongei Shabbat. So thank you to our sisterhood. Thank you to all of our volunteers who make this community run so beautifully. Thank you to my colleagues on professional staff who do the same, whether it's tech work, whether it's BEMA work, whether it's organizing work. It's all part of the work that we do in maintaining our community, even through the pandemic, even through difficult times. We are there together. One other note about contact tracing is that I know for those of you who aren't familiar, I hope that you signed in today, because if you test positive for COVID within 5 days, we really need you to contact our office just to let us know. That's a confidential bit of information, but it's important for us to know so we can let other people know that there was a contact and a possible exposure here in our community. And we'll let you all know if we hear of that someone was here who had a positive test within 5 days. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, there will be Torah study led by Steve Olson. At 10:30 tomorrow morning, there will be a bat mitzvah when Maria Steinberg, daughter of Edith and Todd Steinberg, comes to this bima as a bat mitzvah. The bat mitzvah will be live and in person and online on YouTube. And the Torah study at 9 o'clock will be on Zoom. Next Friday evening, at 8:30 in the morning, it says there'll be food home deliveries for a volunteer mitzvah opportunity. Watch for that. And next Friday evening, it is a Memorial Day weekend, and we have Shabbat worship at 7:30 p.m. Please join us for that. And the next day, May 28th, we have Torah study led by Steve Craig. I think those are all the announcements that I want to make tonight. Thank you all for your attention and your presence tonight. Cantor.
I would only add that some may have noticed that we have not had Shabbat Midor Lador for a little while. There's just been some timing that hasn't quite worked out, but Shabbat Midor Lador will be returning in June. And so, my friends, we're going to turn back to our supplements. That blessing that we offered, I don't know what page in the supplement.
Page 4.
Page 4 in the supplement. It was not lost on me, and maybe it was not lost on some of you, that the English blessing that we offered to one another was also kind of resonant with a blessing that some parents will actually offer to their children on Shabbat evening, wishing that their children will be like luminaries within our history and in our tradition. Similarly, there are some who have a custom of offering this blessing, Yivarechecha, this priestly blessing to their children on Shabbat evening. And here at Temple Beth El, we take an opportunity to bless one another with peace and wholeness. And so we'll sing the whole thing, I think, all 3 verses. And I think that's the right key, yes. Ruach Elohim, may God's Spirit be with you. Ruach Elohim, keep you safe from harm. May the love of God be your shelter from every storm. Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. Ruach Elohim, may God bless you and keep you, bring you to the light and safe from harm. May the love of friends be your shelter from every storm. Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. Ruach Elohim, may God's Spirit be with you, bring you to the light and loving arms. Together we will be a shelter from every storm. Together we will be a shelter from every storm. Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yatzem lecha shalom. Ve'yatzem lecha shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Have a pleasant Shabbat. Hashkoach.
Oh yeah, it goes back. Even the old ACC Cantor's manual. It's Cantor Lisa Levine. Yeah, she's been around for a while.